I'm here with Tuomas to talk about Dawn of Solace and their latest record, Flames of Perdition, out January 28th on Noble Demon. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Just woke up from a nap, so if I'm a little bit slow with my replies, that's the reason.
You know, before I saw the album press coming out in terms of what the name of the record was going to be, I thought that you were going to name this one Bigger Waves.
Yeah, that would have make sense. Yeah, that's what every musician or songwriter tries to do. Like new album is always bigger and better. So like Flood would have been a good one, but I used that already in one Wolfheart song title. Yeah. So, but yeah, that would have made sense.
So let's get into this record, but let's talk a little bit about Waves before that. How much did Waves, from a creative perspective, influence you as you moved on to Flames of Perdition?
Quite a lot actually, because the Waves is really different from the Darkness that came out 2006. And when I started writing the songs for the Waves some years ago, that really defined the new style for the whole band. So the new album basically follows the same path that I started with the Waves. So that was like a turning point for the band music-wise, at least for these two albums. So it was a huge impact, of course.
So you didn't make us wait for 14 years for a third record. They came in a little bit closer together.
Yeah.
Does this mean that Dawn of Solace for you now it's a little bit more than just a project that you tackle once every decade?
Well, it's a project still, because we wouldn't be able to tour, like do actual tours. Mikko has Kaunis Kuolematon, I have Wolfheart. And schedule-wise, it would be a really complicated band to put on a tour for a longer time. But there's always time between the other bands to work with something new. So the longer break between Darkness and Waves was because of label issues. There would have never been that kind of like a break if I was given two choices back in the days: hire a Spanish lawyer or pay 8,000 euros or something like that. So,
and neither one is a good option.
It was only bad options for me at that time, so I had to put the band on hold. Now I don't have that kind of legal or label issues holding the band down. So writing album every like a few years is not like a issue at all when it comes to creating music, and it's really easy band to navigate with Wolfheart, and I think for Mikko also, because we only see at the studio and we might play a few shows here and there, but only if it makes sense for both me and Mikko.
So when you look at Dawn of Solace and you look at Wolfheart, what do you get out of these two that in the end makes up who you are as a person and as a musician?
I think it's easier for me to like just underline the freedom side of Dawn of Solace, because there is no like a same kind of like 2-year plan. It's like so when you take the touring off from the equation, everything becomes so much simple already. Like so Dawn of Solace gives me so much freedom. And then again, I am like a fairly ambitious guy who likes to see things moving forward. So Wolfheart kind of like satisfies that, and that's like where I can roll my sleeves and push things forward and do a lot of work. But with Dawn of Solace, I can just mainly focus on the music. So I get like I don't know how to compare, because it's not something I never do, like compare the bands or projects or what I get out from them, but I get two different things from each. The other one gives me freedom and gives me no pressure with the art itself, and the other one gives me the good kind of a pressure to push things forward.
When you come into an album like Flames of Perdition, do you have a roadmap of what you want the album to sound like, to feel like, the direction of the record? Or because of the creative freedom that it gives you and the pressure that doesn't put on you, is it more something that comes to you organically, like a song shows up to you here, you put it down, another track down the line, you put it down? How do you approach it?
It comes really organically. Always the first song defines the main direction, but with Dawn of Solace, it's really easy for me because there's no band where I would need to do any like pre-production tapes or demos, or we don't have any rehearsals, anything like that. So I can just Flames of Perdition. Most of the album I wrote in 1 week in this one cabin in one of the biggest lakes in Finland. I only had my acoustic guitar. When I came out from the cabin, I was there like for 7 or 8 days. I had the core idea for 8 songs, and then I just went to studio and I had that one like core idea for me can also be just one riff with the acoustic guitar. It doesn't need to be like whole structured song, because you only need the one idea where you start building the idea into a bigger one in the studio. So I didn't have any of the songs completely ready when I'm in the studio, but I already had in my mind the small pieces where each song is start to build up for to be the final version. So, but yeah, it's really organic, and it's because there's no middle steps in the process that I need to make a demo and then we rehearse, and I don't need to think about if this certain song is good for live songs, like live setup, like I sometimes think with Wolfheart, because we used to tour a lot. I don't know how it's gonna go in the future, but back in the days when things were okay, we did a lot of gigs, as I remember. But that like Wolfheart, I like to write songs that we also enjoy play live. There's different factors. With Dawn of Solace, I only need to think about the mood and the emotional side of the music. So then I can just have one riff in my head with the acoustic guitar. Then I go to studio, start building the drum idea, and then suddenly I have a verse, and then there's a middle part, and suddenly there's a song which leads eventually into an album. So.
And speaking of the album, I'm going to ask you this, and then I'm going to elaborate after. But how important for you, or perhaps maybe it's not important, the track listing, the order of the songs? Do you look at that giving something to the record, that it's important for the experience that the listener will get out of the album?
Yeah. Sadly, the trend nowadays is just individual songs that are you get the songs like. Bands are releasing a lot more singles than they did like back in the days, because you need to get a good position in the playlist in Spotify, and it's important to get the individual singles for good sales in the digital distribution. So it's a different thing nowadays. Like people pick up like one song there. They don't necessarily listen to like the full album anymore. But to me, it's really important. At least the beginning and the end. Like I don't write in a way that I write from the beginning to the end, that the whole album is written so that I know each like a song has designed place in the track listing, but especially the first song and the ending song needs to kind of like complete the circle.
Yeah. So now my segue from that question is that after listening to this album, I went back to Waves again. Listened to Waves, then came back to this album. I felt that Waves felt more like a full record, while this one has a lot more quality in the individual tracks. From an overall design perspective, I really like how you started the album, but at the end, it felt like open-ended. Is it open-ended on purpose? Because you kind of finish it with an instrumental track, then you go into the 2 bonus tracks, but there's a little bit of this sense of the story is not over, a little bit of a cliffhanger. Yeah. And perhaps we'll continue down the line. So I felt like the 2 albums had similarities from that perspective, but at the same time they were very different, because one is really well put together and the other one has really a lot of quality in it, but it's open-ended. You see it a little bit like that?
Yeah, that's really well like noticed thing, because the Waves, after like 14 years of break for the band, it's just I didn't really see like where it's gonna go. I just wanted to make an album. It's like it could have been the first for a long time, and it could have been last Solace album ever. Like there was no bigger plan at that point. We just wanted to make the album and see how things go and how things feel. When we started doing the Flames Perdition, it was already clear that there's going to be a next album, again a lot shorter than 10 years or so, and I already knew how the next album is going to start, which is going to be connected with this last song of this album. So the waves was just the individual things, just to see how things go. And this album, like already, like I know that there's going to be a next one. I know how it's going to start, and that's why there's the part one also in the last song.
All right, then now
starting track of the next album is going to be the part two. So it should feel like that. It should feel like it should continue. And if things go well and I manage to write it as I think it should be written, the next album should answer that question itself.
Yeah, so it becomes a little bit more of a sequence. It'll make more sense once you have the two records on your hands.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this album has something that's unique to it? You know, the albums that you've released with Dawn of Solace have a lot of the same characteristics, but I always feel like each record, you put a little bit of something different in it to really separate them from one another while still all being under one single umbrella. So is there anything that you think that feels unique specifically to this record?
Well, as a songwriter, every album feels unique. Even like I don't even need to have the small details, because I remember at least most of the albums when I was what the mindset was when I was writing, where my life was at that moment. And each album reflects that part of my life to me, not that clearly for listeners. So to me, each album is clearly unique. And I do hear the albums differently naturally than the listeners, because it might be all the same for some of the listeners, but I have the emotional connection for the music also. So that even the happier songs might have a really dark memory for me when maybe I was in a good place when I was writing the song, and it didn't turn out dark, but the connection to me is like a dark memory or emotion. So
I felt the album actually had a lot of darkness in it, even in the songs, like you said, that have a little bit more of an uplifting vibe. There's still a very dark underbelly to it. And the other aspect of this record that I thought was really interesting is that it feels very warm. The sound feels very warm. And I wanted to ask you if you feel like that experience comes perhaps from the acoustic side of the record, because there's a huge portion of this album that really lives off of the acoustic sound, and also the pianos, the keyboards. Do you feel like those two elements create that warmth and at the same time create that darkness?
Yeah, and Mikko's voice is a huge factor also, because that kind of we've done those acoustic things already a few times, and there's going to be some similar stuff coming out I think in mid of February already. We did some versions of the new album already. So his voice is so warm and fills the whole room that you just need one acoustic guitar and his voice, and you already have the same mood, which was really nice that we just got the album done, and now the album is coming out, and we already did the few acoustic versions. That's apparently going to be surprised that I fucked up now a little bit. So, but there's going to be some. We did the cabin sessions with the previous album, playing acoustic version of the songs. There's going to be something similar with this album, and after having the whole song with all the tracks and all the production and everything, making the song and then stripping all that extra layers off, you have just one guitar and the voice, and you still get the same mood. So his voice is a huge factor. And the sadness in his voice, I've never heard such a sad voice before. Sad and strong at the same time. There's so much a warmth and confidence in that sadness, in that tone, which is that makes it when he sings lyrics that are right, it makes it so believable and so true in that way. It's you don't need to be you don't need to go too deep with the darkness with the lyrics. You don't need to go into in the bottom of the abyss. It's just anything he says kind of sounds sad and heavy. He
does have that ability to embrace the darkness. You know what I mean? It's such a weird feeling listening to him singing, because he can make the most depressing, horrible tragedy in the world seem a blessing almost.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah, because there's a certain, like, it's like whatever I write, the lyrics that to me represent something that actually was really shitty or bad or sad or failure or frustration, anything directly in my life, he makes it sound like it's kind of like okay at the same time, because it's he has this like a, I wouldn't say it's fatherly tone, but yeah, he gives certain warmth to the sadness that gives like a different tone for the whole music.
Is it rewarding for you as an artist, as a musician, to have him in Dawn of Solace and working with him on these tracks?
Well, like I told him, or like he's also the most humble guy in this universe. Like when I started thinking about doing the waves a few years ago, I messaged him and I asked him would he be interested of coming on the doing the vocals on the album, and he was really skeptical about like, have I really thought it through? Like, do I really think that he would be good enough? And I only said like, I'm not going to even make an album if he's not on board, because we did the 4 albums with Blacks and Ian already like quite some time ago. So it's I don't see myself working with this kind of music this well with anybody else. And it's also, to me, it's also like social thing, because I'm not the most outgoing guy. I don't like I don't see much of people outside like the music business or music like related stuff. So it's nice to get to spend time with Mikko once a year when we gather together and make a new album. So I really like working with him in many levels, as a person, as a friend, but I also like I wouldn't imagine this music being this kind of in this level without him.
Now, having said all of that about his voice and about his vocals, do you ever get a little bit of an itch to throw in some of yours on one of these tracks?
Yeah. I on this album I actually did a little bit, yeah. But then again, I gotta have the idea for the next album already. So yeah, probably. Oh, there's gonna be. I'm pretty sure that a lot of things need to change if there's no growling vocals on the next album. I'm not sure if it's gonna be me, because Mikko has really good growling voice himself, and there might be some other albums coming this year that has my vocals quite a lot also, which I don't have the permission to talk any further. So I do get to do my vocals quite a lot. To me, as a songwriter, my vocals are the most blunt instruments, because it's only rhythmic, it's only percussion, but I can do a lot more with the drums if I want to like put more input on the rhythmical side. So to me, as a songwriting element, my vocals doesn't give that much. It's just a rhythmical thing, and it's not easier to play guitar or the drums or the bass or the piano, acoustic guitar, because there you have more wiggle room. When it comes to my growling, for example, it is what it is. It is what it's been for past 15 years. So it's not like I'm going to surprise myself or anybody else.
Fair enough.
But there's definitely, most certainly going to be growling on the next album. I'm not sure it's going to be me. That's the only thing I can say.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Do you guys discuss the vocal approach from the record, or you leave everything absolutely up to him in terms of the melody that he wants to use and the flow that he wants to use and the approach that he wants to use?
We have a really good system. When we have stuff on the studio ready enough that there's actual structure and the song sounds like a song, I send it to him. He makes like this weird nonsense English ideas on top, and then I write lyrics based on those rhythms and melodies. And then we change something if there needs to be changed. There very rarely needs to be something changed, but it also gives me a completely different angle for the lyrics, because usually when I do growling, I write the lyrics already for like a rhythm that I have in my head. I can't write just lyrics. It doesn't make any sense to me. Just put stuff on the paper. It has to have some kind of like a idea on the background with the rhythmics, and then I do the lyrics for the rhythms. But then I have this weird alien language that of course, because he makes insanely good melodies. There's really good hooks that already like penetrate my brain like this. But only problem, which I think is a good thing also. A problem for me, good for the audience, because I need to find different ways of saying things. I need to find different words and rhymes, patterns, because his rhythmics also get stuck in my head. I get the melody, I get the rhythmics, but the word that carries both doesn't exist in this universe. And I really want to keep the rhythm. So then I have a idea of the lyrics and what I want to say in the song. But the last line of the chorus is, and I'm like, what is the word that has the syllables to fit that precise? Because I don't want to change that. I want to keep that because that's how it now sounds in my head. It's in my brain already. It's not like I can change it. It's like you get this earworm kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's already there. This is the song. I just don't have the right language yet. And then I go. So I have so many different angles when I try to like figure out. Sometimes there's been songs that the hook that has the weirdest word in this planet, I go for that word first and start backtracking the rest of the song from that. But it forced me to work completely differently. So I think it's really good. But
do you enjoy the lyrical part of the creative process of putting Dawn of Solace record together, or is that like something that if you could outsource to somebody else, you would pay somebody else?
No, never. Especially when I don't need to sing it myself. It's a little bit extra work because the system that we have, but it's just work. It doesn't matter. Do I use like 11 or 111 hours? I get the lyrics done, but because I don't need to sing it. It's a lot more enjoyable thing when you can write stuff that you wouldn't feel comfortable of singing aloud or saying aloud, especially for a Finn. That helps quite a lot because it's not like we can talk about stuff anyway with anybody. So they're like, I don't need to work like think about those barriers. And there's some things I can say really bluntly or super. It's everything that he sings sounds different than I think in my head. So it takes all the barriers away. And I've used certain songs in both waves on this album. Basically, it's just like not a therapy, but so it's a good thing to say certain things aloud, and that's why people probably talk to other people in different countries than in Finland, what I've heard. But when you get to say something aloud within a song, and then you hear it sung by another person, things fall into places differently. So that's kind of like what I've been doing with certain songs already. So I don't need to talk at all. That's where I'm leading. I'm gonna be this like a guy who bottles up everything inside, but I can process a lot of stuff that I write in the lyrics, and then I just hear it on the album. So listening to both albums has been quite a important thing for me with this whole pandemic thing.
That was going to be my last question for you, is because I get the feeling like with Wolfheart, there's a little bit more of a mechanical approach to how everything comes together, while with Dawn of Solace, it's a little bit more stripped out from the heart, which makes it more emotional for you. It gives you a little bit of a deeper connection. And my question was going to be, my last question for you is, when you listen to the album back, are there some songs on the record that are a little bit difficult to listen to due to that more emotional connection that they have?
Well, not difficult, but certain songs bring certain feelings, and it takes me back to certain situations. So it's not like they don't take me to a happy place always, but it feels good to have how can I explain it? Always when you just like go things back and forth inside your head, it ends up in a certain kind of chaos. Like your own head is not a good place to process stuff depends of the subject and the person, but most of the time you are not yourself, like you're not the best therapist for yourself ever. So it's now I lost the thought. It's not difficult, but it is not pleasant either, but it's really important, and it's really like been quite a big thing in the past 2 years, because Wolfheart doesn't really have that kind of like it doesn't give me that. It gives me different kind of energy, except there's few songs in Wolfheart catalog back in the days, which was also the reason why I started Dawn of Solace. When I realized when I did the same thing with Wolfheart, but I sang the songs myself, there is one song in Wolfheart catalog that I can't even repeat the lyrics by speaking when the song is playing. And then I realized, like, I can't put these kind of songs on the albums. We can't play these songs live. I can't, like, I don't handle it well if it's my vocals and it's
becomes more real.
Yeah, it comes way too real. And also it's a different thing when I hear Mikko saying things that I've been thinking, that's like a safe bubble. The music is because I created the music, and it's my bubble. But when you take that kind of a music on front of the audience, that becomes really horrible situation when you are there saying things that you wouldn't want to say aloud to anybody, and you are basically there as an entertainer, not a songwriter. There's no bubble, there's no music, there's just people in the audience just wanting to be entertained. That happened with few songs with Wolfheart. So that was also one of the reasons why I started Dawn of Solace, that I have musically another project that I can reflect certain stuff a little bit more directly, and I don't need to sing them myself, but I get to listen to the thing and I get it out of my system. I don't know, did I reply any of the thing that you asked?
You did actually, you did. It's just an interesting way of seeing how you divide that aspect in your brain, like in terms of using the two bands for two different sides of who you are as a person. One perhaps the more blunt and more straightforward side, and the other one the more introspective side. So it's really interesting to see you dividing it into those two camps so that you can get the most out of both. Yeah. I guess I never really analyze it that far. It's so much more black and white and simple for me to do things. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. Yeah. Well, Tuomas, thank you very much for your time today. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. Hopefully I'll get to see you in North America this year on tour, something that you used to do back in the day.
Yeah, I have some. Yeah, I remember we did some of those things when I was younger. But yeah, I hope April and May. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I hope to see you guys here. The tour package is outstanding. So I really hope to see you guys in Toronto. It's always a pleasure. I'll bring you some ice cream if you guys are in town, as always. And we'll get to chat again. So all the best to you, and with the release, and to Mikko, you guys did a phenomenal job with Flames of Perdition.
Thank you.